What is going on, everyone? Hey, I've got today on Mary Lai, who's going to be one of the speakers at NFT Expoverse out in July in LA. Mary Lai herself is an LA-based artist and graphic designer, been doing it in the space for over 15 years now. But she's on today to talk about diversity, inclusion into Web3 and how businesses moving into this space need to be thinking about and really taking into consideration diversity and inclusion, but also how Web3 also could helps diversity and inclusion, some of the anonymity factors behind it, and what does that mean for the people participating in it and getting different views. It's a great talk. I hope you enjoy it. Check it out. Oh, okay, there we go. We're set up. How are you
Okay,
doing?
great. Good. Yeah, it's been a great weekend. It's now just getting back in the groove. How are you doing? Where are you?
Uh,
Where are you right now?
I am in Charlotte, North Carolina. And what about
Okay.
yourself?
Los Angeles, California.
Ah, LA. Very nice. Very nice. Awesome. Well, hey, I appreciate you taking the time to chat today. I
Thank you.
think that so you're going to be one of the speakers at NFT Expoverse, which is incredible, out
hmm
in LA as well. At the end of July. I don't have the dates pulled up, but somewhere around there. And I saw that you're going to be on there talking around like diversity and inclusion in Web3, which I think is an incredibly fascinating topic. So love that you're on today. So I'd love to cover some of that.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, so I think maybe if you want to start, like a little bit of your background, right? I saw your title on there was Hungry Artist. I did a little
Yes.
digging of you as well around your background in like art and design and some of like the mixed media things that you've done in the past as well. But maybe you just want to give, everyone watching a quick little overview of yourself.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm a visual artist, and prior to me transitioning to art full time, I was doing fashion accessories in New York. So in New York, I had over a decade career doing graphic design and fashion accessories, and then I've always dreamed of just switching over full time to visual art, which I did when I transitioned to LA. Moved over here. 2019 is when I went full time art, and it's been amazing. I feel like I'm on my right path. And I think right now with Web3, it's such an exciting time to be an artist. And
Hmm.
so, I think it just opens up a lot of different opportunities. And so that's kind of my background.
Gotcha. Like, so what do you, cause I'm curious, I love chatting with artists about Web3
Mhm.
because everyone's super stoked. I mean, what do you find is like the most, like, what do you find so incredible about it? What do you see as the big opportunity from a artist lens?
Sure. Well, I think with artists prior, if art piece goes to auction and somebody buys an art piece for, a lot of money in the secondary sales, the artist doesn't get any royalty. Versus now in Web3, I think it's really amazing that artists can build in secondary sales and royalties for their artwork. So it's
Hmm.
like, for the first time, I feel like artists have more power and they're able to really have true ownership for their artwork. So I think that's what's exciting about NFT art and Web3 for me personally as an artist.
Hmm. Yeah, and being able just to provide like that, like really lower that barrier, right, to entry, right? Like it's not, getting into, I'm sure like getting into a physical gallery is much more difficult than, creating and being able to sell and monetize on your hard work than what you can do like in Web3, right?
Yes, agreed. I mean, I do think there's still some gatekeepers in Web3, but I feel like it's very different than the traditional art world where, it's very hard to get, representation from a lot of galleries. However, in Web3, yes, you have to get into some platforms and there are some gatekeepers, but if you really just put your time and efforts in, I feel like the barrier to entry is way easier.
Gotcha. Yeah, yeah. So I feel like I could dig into like to art and to Web3 for forever because it's a huge area. But for the process, I would love to, and I think that this is an area that gets, um, some attention, but really the tech space as a whole, it doesn't get enough. But it is really around like diversity and inclusion, and the idea that with Web3, it's kind of this ability to start fresh, right? And this ability to really start to build in a lot of those like mental mechanics that when you're a business or you're looking to move into Web3, like how to, keep in mind and drive that idea of, inclusion in the space. And, I saw a really interesting study out of the University of Chicago that, that 41% of like crypto traders were women, um, and that 44% of crypto traders were investors of color, which is astounding to see, right? And again, I think it all drives back to like that lower, like it's way easier to get in, right? Like that barrier to think that you need to go sign up to be a stock to trade stocks seems so high when it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't. But I'm curious about how your path and like journey in the space has been so far.
Mm-hmm. Um, I think the Web3 space right now, because it is so early and it's new, it's kind of really amazing that we can all go in and make it a better place and build it the way we want to. I feel
Mm-hmm.
like we're on the ground floor, and if we participate, we can try to make it more inclusive and a diverse kind of playing field. So I think Web3 has been really great because prior, maybe there is. A lot of times where it's harder as a female, or
Mm-hmm.
if your race or your religion or age, or there's so many things that could set you back. But I feel like in Web3, it's so new that if you want to build it that way and have you know more women or more different races and all these different kind of socioeconomic backgrounds being represented, that person needs to just step in and make that change, because we're in the ground floor and we can all build it the way you want it to be for a better place.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what's exciting to me is for Web3. And I think as a female Asian artist, prior, I feel like, even in art history, you always see male artists. You don't even see, you don't read a lot about like women artists, right? But now with Web3, they want to hear more about women in the Web3 space. So I think there's so many shifts and changes that's happening right now, and we can all participate and be part of it. So that's why I feel like I'm here for it all.
Mm-hmm. And now, so like, would you say too that I obviously have a very have a baked in bias being right a white male. It's kind of like we are the dominant ones in this. So it's and I'm so happy to explore this, right, and dig into it more. But like, have you seen the being like a Asian female artist before Web3, right, and the challenges that you had there versus being Asian female artist in Web3, like how much different is it, right? Is it like night and day? Is it like there's other areas, there's still some places that could be better? Like how's it been?
I think there is differences, but I think once I started 100% being my own boss, I don't have to like answer to somebody else or be in kind of like a corporate environment. So when I worked in corporate, I can feel the difference
Mm-hmm.
of those kind of like biases and different kind of like I guess advantages that others might have had. But I think once I went full time working for myself, I didn't feel those because I'm just independent.
Right.
So from just like traditional art to Web3 art, I haven't felt that different because I was always independent. But if you're talking about my corporate experience, in New York and, some in LA, yes, I definitely feel like it would be an advantage if I was, a white male, or,
Yeah.
if you were different, any kind of background, whatever somebody is, there might be advantages, but I think from Web 2 to Web 3 as an artist, because I'm independent, it's felt similar, but I feel like it's easier in Web3 without all the politics and the gatekeeping.
Got it. No, and that's fair, right? I think that totally makes sense.
Hmm.
Now, do you think, and this is like a hypothetical thing, right, that I'm throwing out there now, is that do you think that because of the level of like anonymity that you can have in Web3, that's led to a lot more openness and maybe like less discrimination because you don't know who's putting out, a piece of artwork? Could be, black, white, whatever color, age, male, female, in between, whatever they want to be. And like without knowing that, it removes that biasness, and then you're actually purchasing based on what you feel about the piece itself and not necessarily the person.
Yes, agreed. Yeah, I think that's a huge advantage, but I think there's pros and cons to it too, because I feel like when that person is anonymous and
Mm-hmm.
they're not doxxed, then you could really just buy into something and then find out later it was just, some people trying to make money, and then, the rug pull happens. And, I feel like there's something great about knowing who the artist is or who the person behind that project is. But also, I think when you are able to just, have this, PFP that represents you and you don't know, their background, it does bring more diversity and inclusion because you're seeing them for, their PFP artwork, or you're
Mm-hmm.
seeing them for their name that they've created for themselves. So I think there's the pros and cons for both. For me personally, I just go by my own name, and sometimes I wonder if that's a disadvantage. I wonder, if I had some really cool name, would that be better,
Mm-hmm.
but I feel like I've actually written a list of all these different names, and I'm like, this is terrible, and I'm like, I can't. I just Mary Lai is the best thing I could come up with because that's just
Right.
my name. But I wish I could come up with something super cool because I feel like and some of these, like somebody like Beeple, right?
Mm-hmm.
Was he more successful because he was Beeple, or would he have been just as successful if he was Michael Winkleman? You know what I mean? Like I wonder if the name like subconsciously does something to the person buying it because you don't know who they are. So I think there's the pros and cons. But for me personally, I'm just, being transparent, and I'm a doxed artist that you can see, okay, Mary Lai, she's working on this project.
Right. And so
Hmm.
besides not being able to come up with a cool name that you think is cool, which
Right.
I can't think of a cool name that I would go by either.
So you just go by your name too, but
I
you have a
just
cool
go,
name.
yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. Yeah, I just go by mine as well, right? Because
Right.
because we're both out here showing our faces, right? I mean,
Yes.
so I
Yeah.
mean, if you could, like, so what was the reason to dox yourself, right, and not spend more time to say, I really want to take this from a fully like anonymous artist
Right.
perspective? Is that just you, or did you was like there's some
I've
motivation
gotten
behind it?
some feedback in the beginning, and I asked, should I be thinking of a different name? And they've said, you've been doing art for some time now, and why not just build it within your own name? What are you
Mm-hmm.
hiding? I think it kind of works out for what you're doing. So I did just stay with it. But sometimes I think, say if I was going by Rare Mare or, something different,
It's kind of
would
cool.
that
Yeah.
make me? But I feel like anything you think of, then you look at it and you're like, oh, it's taken. Everything's taken.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
then it's like, I've been building, my brand, I guess, as an artist, that it's like, okay, it's easy just to stay with what you have. But
Mm-hmm.
I do sometimes wonder, maybe if I did some kind of secret project under some secret name, would that find way more success when people don't know that's a female Asian artist that created that? It's more like,
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea who that is, and the name of the project is, XYZ or whatnot. There's so much psychology behind when somebody buys artwork, that there's no right or wrong, but I'm just going by what feels right now.
Yeah. No, that's
Mhm.
fair too, and it's some of the projects or things that I've participated in, because I've been part of projects that have doxed founders and non-doxed founders, and um, yeah, I think there's a certain level of like fantasy. You kind of fantasize about who this person might be, and you kind of subjectively like imprint yourself into who that person might be, and that builds this level of kind of awe, right? And then once but if you do know them, and even just seeing a picture of them, I feel like, and some of them have been very you know what's the best way to say this, like I'll look at them and be like, they don't look like someone that can do this, which is completely fucking ridiculous, given that like I know nothing about this person, I have no inclination, but it's some like human characteristic, just be like, they look kind of young, right? Like they, the fact that they just got $15 million from selling this out, does it look like they could run this thing successfully, yes or no? But if they were just an image of an ape or something, and be like, well, totally, right? Which is, I've never really thought about it, but it is definitely fascinating from like a psychology standpoint.
Mm-hmm,
Um,
mm-hmm.
and I'm curious too around, as we like, so as Web3 continues to grow, right? And like as of right now, obviously like crypto drives revenue, NFTs like drive revenue and transactions. But when we start to see more like actual companies like that are piggybacking like on DAO type structures, if what role I think two questions. Like, what do you see as factors, advice, things that these anonymous organizations need to be thinking about or doing to drive inclusion and diversity? And then on the tail end of that, the impact that anonymability has. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Um, I think when these companies decide they want to be part of Web3, like bigger companies or just enterprises in general, I think if they think of inclusion and diversity from the beginning, it will help them with their business because I feel like it's been proven
Mm-hmm.
diverse teams have more financial gains. And
Right.
so I think from a financial business side of point of view, it's the right it's the right way to go. But also when you include all different types of backgrounds, I think it brings more engagement and productivity to a team. So I
Mm-hmm.
think there's so many benefits. And I think the benefit in general is just that it's more of a positive space and a better place for us to move towards because we've done the past. How can we make it better? And that's what Web3 is about. How are we making things better? That I think all teams should be thinking about diversity and inclusion. I think it's very important. And when you factor that into your team members and who you are bringing on your team, I think it's just going to have positive impact. So I really hope to see more of that.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Yeah, I was doing a little bit of research before this.
Mhm.
Funny, I like never did homework in high school, and now I feel like I'm very proactive against it, which is great. But yeah, there was another study right out of like 2,400 large cap companies around the world, with at least one woman on the board were shown to outperform their peer groups with no women by the board by 26%. Right, so the math, the science is all there.
Yeah.
And building that into this, I think, is critical. Like on the flip side of it, though, too, like let's say that we're like the gurus, right, of the Web3, and we're like speaking to everyone else that's out there that's thinking about either one starting a Web3 first company from scratch, or maybe thinking about starting a DAO, right, from scratch. Like, what would be if you had to give like two tactical, like very tactical advice items, like here's what you should do to drive or attract, right, diversity to your organization. Like, what would one or two of those maybe be?
Right, right. I like what you said about when there's a woman
The board.
on the board.
Yep.
Yes, that there is better performance. And so if people are trying to build these teams, I think right away, like from the leadership and from the board, have those women, have that diverse team. So you're not just saying it, you're actually doing it. So I think that could be one. Um, yeah, and I think it's just yeah, if you do that first thing, I think it just kind of leads into bringing a team that's more diverse and having that inclusion. Um, does that
Hmm.
answer the
No,
question?
it does. Yeah, and like I don't have an answer for it either, right? And
Right.
it's a difficult problem, especially given how rooted just overall tech is, right, into
Yes.
like white male dominated industry, and having the chance to kind of rewrite some of that, I think, is fascinating, and also having a bit of the means to do so as well, right? Meaning that,
Mhm.
if you can create an organization that's similar or, operates as a DAO structure where people are incentivized and rewarded for performing tasks and yet at the same time can remain anonymous, while it's not the correct answer, like it does help facilitate, I think, at least the early transitions into kind of a new way of working and shaping all of this. And be curious to see how it all progresses. But on your end, as you look down your career path, right, and look down to where you see yourself, like in your artwork and things going in, the next 5 to 10 years. I mean, what do you see, right? Is it doing mixes of mixed media stuff where I'm still, I'm still doing, large murals and installation things, maybe teaching or something, or do you see some future where like a lot of art and like maybe even like let's say even say 51% of art is all digital or in the metaverse?
Mhm.
Like how do you see it playing out?
Right. I love tangible art. Like I love to see a painting on a wall. I love to go to art shows and galleries. So I would never want to see that fully
Mm-hmm.
taken away by just digital artwork, but I love digital artwork as well and what it could bring. I feel like I'm always kind of straddling both tangible and digital, and I see myself continuing to do that. I don't feel like I'm gonna leave. Creating physical artwork just to go into like 100% NFT art. I feel like there is a way to kind of have that balance. And I think right now the bridge is getting built where it's going to be easier for artists to kind of do both.
Mm-hmm.
Um, when I think about like even my art collectors, none of them have bought my art piece and a digital NFT piece. It's either you have the people that buy the NFT and you have the people that like the physical artwork
Oh, it's
artwork.
fascinating.
Yeah, but there's not, I don't have anyone that's bought both. So I feel like it's such different collectors,
Mm-hmm.
and the worlds are just still very different. So I feel like as there's more bridges that's being built between both the physical art world and this whole like crypto NFT Web3 art world, it's gonna make it easier to build with more harmony.
Right.
But for me, yeah, I want to continue both. And I see myself doing this. And even, the projects that I'm building in the NFT space is really to kind of empower artists, right? So then that's where I would love to continue to see the NFT art world going,
Mm-hmm.
is that we are all kind of building communities, helping each other and empowering each other to have our artwork shown, because I feel like there's so many creators out there that never was able to have their artwork exhibited, but now is the time. And I think it's important that we build communities where we can help each other. So I see myself continuing that journey.
Gotcha. Yeah. So being very active to help enable, right, and
Hmm.
offer access, which is an incredible road to walk. Um,
Hmm.
and I'm curious too, because that really was super interesting, and like we're getting close to time here, but I am very fascinated about how the people that have bought your work, they either exclusively bought physical or bought digital. Like what, if you don't mind me asking, like what's the, and maybe demographic is too broad, but is it people buying the digital only, like crypto natives, like they're only buying that, and then the ones that are buying the physical are like maybe older or like people that have traditional ones?
Mhm. Yeah,
Is that
I
really the
feel like
split?
right now it is those two separate worlds. Um, and I feel like there's a little bit of like crossover where people that have bought physical artwork are interested in NFTs, but haven't taken that step to then open up a wallet and buy NFTs. So I don't think that there's mass adoption at all when it comes to traditional art collectors
Mm-hmm.
to NFT art collectors. But I think that's just me personally.
Right.
I think I'm sure there's other artists that now have kind of had physical paintings sold to art collectors and showed art collectors how you set up a wallet, and here, this is my NFT, purchase my NFT. So
Mm-hmm.
I think there is both of that, but I just haven't experienced it yet.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's a tough one, and it's something that we're seeing, and I feel like art is such a good parallel for all of this, because one of the big trends that we're seeing, and like one of my predictions of the next wave of adoption of Web3 users, is going to be through tokenization of physical assets, right? So it'll be an art piece with an NFT, right? And so you get
Mm-hmm.
these and you're able to make that like cognitive
Yes.
connection that like, yes, this thing has value. And there
Mm-hmm.
is some level of like tangibility. And then after you have that, you can start to move them, those, I would still argue early adopters on the curve,
Mm-hmm.
to away from the tokenization into just pure digital, which is cool. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but like, I can't thank you enough for stopping by today. This went by way faster than I thought. I should have done more than 30 minutes, so I apologize for that.
No, this
Um,
was perfect. Thank you so much.
yeah, and so everyone will be able to find you at NFT Exoverse in July. Like, where else can people go and find you on socials or what?
Sure. On socials, on Instagram, it's just marylai.co. And then on Twitter, it's marylai_co. So you can find me there. And I'm, going to be launching a NFT project called Hungry Artists. So you can find that on hungryartist.io.
Awesome.
Thank you,
Well,
Corey. It's so
yeah.
nice chatting with you.
Yeah, you as well. And look forward to meeting you in person. And I will be following up to get some of those socials too, so we can put them in the comments below so people can go check you
Awesome.
out.
Thank you so much.
Thank you as well.
Okay. Have a great
Bye.
one. Bye.
Bye. All right. And with that, Mary, that's like super cool, right? And that, the idea of understanding and like the opportunity, right? That diversity, like that Web3 offers for diversity and inclusion is super fascinating, because the fact that you can layer on a level of anonymity, and that removes a lot of these barriers that typically people may have moving into the space because of the shitty structure of society and the industry that it's built. That offers these people a way to come in and not have any form of like prejudice or anything against them. And the fact that we're building all of this kind of, from the ground up is also super cool. And we can define a lot of these things as we go. And yeah, I look forward to seeing how it goes.